Supergirl is officially James Gunn's DCU kryptonite. This is your official deep dive on Supergirl's box office performance, where it stands creatively as a film, and what Supergirl means for the future of the DCU as a whole. Supergirl opened June 26, 2026. Box office projections had the movie coming in with a potential 45 to 55 million domestic opening and 100 million opening worldwide. Spoiler alert, none of that happened. Supergirl instead bombed with a mere 37 million domestic, 25 million international, for an absolutely abysmal global opening weekend of 62.6 million total. That puts it behind movies like The Flash, The Marvels, and yes, even Morbius. These are some of the worst flops in modern blockbuster film history, and Supergirl looks to join them very soon, as both Variety and Deadline report that Supergirl's headed for a $100 million loss for Warner Brothers. This is cold red for the DCU. And what's that, you ask? How can you determine if a film's gonna be a bomb when it just came out a few days ago? Well, that's because the box office is a very meticulous and precise mathematic formula, where you take a movie's production budget, which was around $175 million for Supergirl, add its marketing budget, which is anywhere between $100 to $125 million for most big budget comic book films, and whatever you get from that total, it gives you a pretty good idea of how much a film has to make in order to break even. Deadline claims $315 million worldwide for break even, but I think they're playing softball with Supergirl. A big movie like this with a total budget somewhere between $275 to $300 million would need a final box office total between $450 to $500 million just to break even. That's not even profit, just breaking even. And unfortunately, when it's all said and done, Supergirl is trending to a possible $150 to $200 million worldwide total. How could this happen? This is a disaster for the DCU, and it was off to such a great start with Superman. Well, let's analyze the film itself from a creative standpoint and see where things might have went wrong with the general audience. Millie Alcock is casted as Supergirl in this movie. You would know her best from the HBO show House of the Dragons. She's a great actress in that, and she's a great actress in Supergirl as well. So why isn't she clicking with the general audience when it comes to this character? It's very simple. The script for this movie departs entirely from what audiences are expecting from a Supergirl movie. The character is already not very popular to begin with, but those who know Supergirl see her as an optimistic and hopeful icon. The general public views Supergirl as a bright, hopeful, and compassionate counterpart to Superman. She's sunny, she's optimistic, and she embodies girl power, resilience, and kindness from a positive standpoint, kind of like a superpowered Barbie. You'll find this type of general portrayal of Supergirl from most of the comics, the 1984 Supergirl movie, the Superman, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited animated series, and the Supergirl CW Arrowverse series, which in my opinion is kind of underrated. But wait, isn't this Supergirl movie based off of the Woman of Tomorrow comic book? So how is the character portrayed in that source material? This book does take a more mature and hardened survivor approach to Supergirl, but it never leaves behind her optimism, and she even serves as a moral guide to Ruthie in order to save her from being consumed by her own revenge. But despite all of this lore, James Gunn hired Anna Nogueira to write and Craig Gillespie to direct a Supergirl movie that has absolutely nothing to do with the previous portrayals of the character. They subverted audience expectations by presenting Supergirl as a darker, punk rock, reluctant anti-hero. She goes to Red Sun star system to get drunk out of her mind. She talks as much as Deadpool and Star-Lord, and she's an overall chaotic mess who does not relate to her cousin Superman whatsoever. The overall film itself leans more to the cynical, rebellious, and revenge theme of this story, and while that portrayal may work for some viewers, me included, it absolutely will not appeal to the vast majority of general audience who a studio needs to see their movie in order to make it a financial success. So the acting and overall script of Supergirl is not bad per se. It just doesn't fit the bill for what audiences around the world are thinking about when they decide to spend their money on a summer blockbuster comic book film. And just as a bonus that does have to be mentioned, the actress herself has made real life comments multiple times that would typically turn a decent amount of potential viewers away from wanting to see this movie. Now, how much effect does that have in the grand scheme of things? That's kind of hard to quantify, but we'd just be dishonest if we say it doesn't have any effect at all. So we've covered the acting, the actress, and the script, but there has to be something more that contributed to this massive disconnect from the countless people who make up the comic book film audience. Ah yes, the James Gunn factor. James Gunn has been in Hollywood for quite some time, but he got his current clout from directing the MCU trilogy Guardians of the Galaxy. Back in 2014, at the time of the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, it completely blew audiences away. Nobody had ever seen a comedically self-aware, satirical comic book film wrapped inside of a big-budget sci-fi space adventure. You had jokes, you had action, you had big-budget CGI, and these unexpected needle-drop moments where popular commercialized songs from various decades would come in to emphasize what's happening on screen and create an instantly classic comic book movie scene. James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy formula went on to make a massive $773.4 million, and overnight, every Hollywood studio wanted their own Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Fast forward to October 2022, and you have Warner Bros. Discovery officially hiring James Gunn along with Peter Safran to not only direct films but also be their leader and producer and virtual Kevin Feige clone. So naturally, the idea is that he'd lead them to multiple Guardians of the Galaxy level successes, right? Well, his Superman 2025 film, which he directed and produced, turned out pretty good. Well, what happens when audiences get a film that feels less like Superman and Guardians of the Galaxy and more like an odd subvertive knockoff of both films put together? Well, you get Supergirl. You've got the attempt at self-aware jokes, but they don't always hit. You've got the satirical, over-the-top space sci-fi setting, but it's not fresh and audiences have seen it many times at this point. You got the goofy aliens, the witty trench coat wearing protagonists, all of which are been there, done that many times by 2026. And boy oh boy, we even have the pop culture attempted needle drop moments, which don't offer a single memorable song or standout scene whatsoever. Supergirl has all the elements of Guardians of the Galaxy, but none of them work. So while Craig Gillespie directed this film and not James Gunn, it has James Gunn's handprint written all over it, or should I say, the faded glimpse of what his handprint used to be. And as the CEO of DC Films and the producer of this movie, none of this is by accident because he is directly involved with the entire process of this production. Craig Gillespie's directing style for this film lacks a creative identity of its own. Supergirl does not stand out as its own thing, nor does it blend in with what audiences are already familiar with and enjoy. Instead, it plays like the barely visible ghost of an unexpected smash hit comic book film from 2014. And if this same exact Supergirl movie had come out at or around 2014, I guarantee it would have done much better critically with audiences and at the box office. But it ain't 2014, it's 2026, and movie-going audiences have to be convinced to leave their house in cozy streaming rooms in order to see your movie. So is that it? Did we solve the question of why Supergirl failed? Not quite yet. Because comic book films that step away from the source material and have weaker scripts can still succeed. Take Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for instance. That movie departs far from the source material and doesn't have a particularly strong script either. But the movie got good reviews from critics, audiences, and went on to make $869.1 million at the box office. This movie is objectively and creatively not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 1, but it ended up making more money than the first film and kept audiences interested enough to come back for a third film. And why did this happen? It's because the movie has an interesting ensemble cast of characters, mainly the supporting characters. And the villain, while not completely legendary, still gave an entertaining and memorable performance as Ego the Living Planet. Supergirl did not have a single ounce of any of this. We already talked about the issue with her as the main character, but even the cast around her was uninspired and uninteresting. Ruthie comes across less as a pivotal story element and more as an annoying kid who just gets in the way. Crypto could have been Supergirl's Rocket Raccoon. Instead, he gets hardly any screen time. When he's on screen, he's untamed, and he serves as an easy emotional heartstring pull that never really comes together or feels like anything real. But what about Lobo? Surely Jason Momoa as Lobo was legendary, right? Well, while Jason Momoa did a good job and the character itself looked good, once again the script just did not give him much to work with. So what could have been a standout performance of a cosmic biker gang Deadpool type of character, it ends up playing more like face-painted Aquaman who's just a little more pissed off. And here it is, guys. The absolute worst part of the cast is the villain, known as Krim of the Yellow Hills in Tom King's comic, a skilled swordsman and archer from a red sun planet where Kryptonians lose their powers. Depicted as a red-headed, ruthless, and cruel, sadistic space pirate in the comic book, has been transformed into the most generic, forgettable, uninspired sci-fi bad guy dude with weird mannerisms, no motivation, no standout skills or compelling superpowers, and the most garbage Mad Max Hellraiser type of design that you've ever seen in your entire life. I don't understand how Hollywood continues to make the terrible villain mistake when it comes to comic book films. A good villain can make or break your entire movie. And in a world where Christopher Nolan already gave us the blueprint in the Dark Knight trilogy, as well as the MCU with villains like Loki, Hela, and Thanos, there is no excuse for James Gunn to allow such a weak attempt at a villain in just the second film of his new DCU. He should have took one look at the script and art direction and sent it right back to the drawing board. So while all the actors and actresses in this movie gave pretty good performances, they just had no chance based off the material they had to work with. Now, the one thing that could have saved this movie as a last resort is big, epic CGI action that leaves a memorable mark on the audience and makes them want to come back for more. And while we do get some pretty cool scenes of Supergirl showing her superpowers in space, flying around, using her laser vision even when she puts on the suit at the end of the movie, there is not a single solitary action set piece that will leave a lasting mark in the audience's mind and cause them to want to watch this movie again. So unfortunately, all of these elements come together for a film that receives a critic rating of 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 76% audience score, and a mere B- cinema score, which is worst case scenario for a PG-13 comic book film like this. So yeah, it flopped critically, it flopped with audiences, and it flopped financially. So what does this mean for the overall DCU in the future going forward? Well, Superman Man of Tomorrow is already filming as we speak and set for release in 2027 with Millie Alcock's Supergirl returning in a major role, they say. We have Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 releasing 2027 as well, which may or may not be a part of the DCU, we still don't know. We have the lower budget Clayface horror film coming later this year in October, the HBO Lantern show dropping later this year as well, and a supposed Deathstroke and Bane movie that sounds less like an actual project and more like a desperate attempt to distract from Supergirl's bad PR in the media. James Gunn has remained stoic and silent about Supergirl's failure, but Peter Safran did make an interesting comment where he states, and quote, "While Supergirl didn't meet our box office expectations, it's just one component of a broader long-term strategy at DC Studios that we remain confident in." So, maybe they take this as a learning experience. Maybe it's not the end of the world. Maybe from now on, we get nothing but absolute bangers surrounding the characters that we want to see, and they're portrayed close enough to the comic-accurate source material that audiences are entertained and satisfied. Both James Gunn and Peter Safran have track records of success, and a lot of it, so I believe they can course correct after this. And hopefully Supergirl's failure serves as a learning experience to all Hollywood studios. But as of now, all eyes are on James Gunn, the DCU, and Superman Man of Tomorrow. This movie has to be a generational success to gain audiences' full trust, and in order for James Gunn to keep his job in the face of the new Paramount Warner Brothers merger. Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.